Okay, so again, thank you everyone for joining today for mindful living and meditation and prayer. Today we're going to be, the series is called Waking the Spirit Within. But the spirit, as I said in the first time we met, is always awake. It's the part of us that there's other parts of us that really aren't awake. So really we're integrating our awake spirit to be more in the foreground of our life so that we can tap into a deeper, more connected wisdom that we all have innately. And today, what I'd like to speak, what I'm calling tending to the tender heart, because one of the ways we get in touch with our spirit, where we have a wider awareness of the true reality of our interconnectedness and our goodness, is when we can really feel the tenderness of our own heart. And I'll be speaking a little bit about that later. Again, for those of you who joining us for the first time, my name is Karen O'Byrne. I'm an ordained interfaith minister. I went to seminary for 2 years at a great place called One Spirit. And because I wanted to go to a seminary that had to focus on spirit rather than on doctrine. But I do, interfaith upholds all religions, but we focus more on the mystical heart that kind of was the beginning of all the great religions. So that's what interfaith is about. It's not choosing one to represent a one truth. It's learning to uphold those elements in a religion that nourishes us and speaks to the mystical truth of spirit. And it usually has to do with direct experience. Most religions started from a direct experience. And so in my meditations, my goal is to hope at some point you have a direct experience of your own inner beauty, truth, and wisdom. I'd like to start with this poem. It kind of speaks to the subject today. And it's, again, a poem that's been translated, adapted by Daniel Ladinsky. It's from Hafiz. It's called It Felt Love. Not that Hafiz called it that. Daniel Ladinsky is calling the title of this poem, It Felt Love. How did the rose ever open its heart and give to the world all its beauty? It felt the encouragement of light against its being. Otherwise, we all remain too frightened. So I invite you now to settle in your, whatever you're sitting on. Maybe put your attention to where your body is in contact with the sofa or the chair, whatever you're on. And take a moment to just appreciate that you're being supported. So allow your back to be supported, your bottom and thighs to be supported. You can move your shoulders a little bit. Just attend to that feeling of arriving here together in this way. And we'll just spend a few moments in a guided meditation to bring us in a more relaxed, receptive state. So if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. You don't have to. You can just gaze softly and take a slightly deeper breath than normal. Don't strain. It's nothing like you don't have to fill everything up, but a deeper breath and then a slower exhale. You can even push it out of your mouth gently through your mouth if you'd like. But mostly it's to take a fuller breath and a slow, controlled exhale. Let's do that again. A full inhale and a slow, conscious exhale. One more time, inhaling, slow exhale. And then let go of that. Let go of controlling your breath. But leave your attention on the breath, noticing the sensation of the air entering and leaving the body. Noticing where you can feel your own breath. Perhaps it's in your nostrils. Perhaps it's the back of the throat, the rise of the chest, an expansion of the ribs. Just notice, using your attention now to become intimate with what is most life-giving, the breath. You notice your mind having thoughts, as it will. Just notice, take note, and return the attention to the sensation of breath. This simple practice, conscious breathing, keeps us present, the here and now. And we learn to notice our mind, but not to be dragged around by it, by returning to the breath. This simple practice, a few times a day, does a lot more than we think it will. So again, practicing together, noticing the intake of oxygen, the life force, and then the small surrender of an exhale. This is the rhythm of all life, taking in and letting go. We'll breathe for a few more moments together, staying awake and aware, relaxed, together, open, aware. We are here to listen, to honor, to acknowledge, to hold space, and to empathize from a tender space of heart-centered consciousness. You can take your time coming out of that gentle, short meditation. And open your eyes whenever you feel comfortable. So I'm gonna talk about tending to our tender heart. Because we are all born with a tender heart. Tender heart is, well, you probably all know what that is. It's when when you see a kitten or something touches you and you go, oh, you feel a softening in your response to whatever it is that you're encountering. And it moves us, it touches us, and it's tender. And the first week, we talked about our interconnectedness, how we are interconnected, and there's no way around that. We are connected. And last week, we talked a bit about how we get identified with our mini me, our anxiousness, our anger, our material possessions, our whole kind of persona we identify with. So the antidote to getting stuck identifying with that anxious, frightened mini me that is, and because it is frightened and because it is anxious, it's constantly defending itself, and it's constantly causing us to feel separate from that interconnection because it's in defense mode, and it feels it's necessary to defend the heart, our tenderness, because it feels vulnerable. And a lot of this that I'm talking about in psychology or different traditions, spiritual traditions, it's the ego, our ego that is normally kind of running our day-to-day operations. And a big function of the ego is to defend us, to make sure no one's, going to get us. But what that does is it creates a wall around that naturally empathizing, empathetic, sweet, tender heart. So that's the cost. That's the cost of identifying with our egos. We lose that. We don't lose it. It's still there. No matter how many times we feel like maybe our heart has been broken, the tender heart is still there, just like our spirit is still there, or spirit is still there. I wouldn't call it ours. So if we want to be more in touch, to be more moved by life, to feel the sweetness of life, we have to become reacquainted with our own tender heart. And we want to do this so that, well, one, we're interconnected. So wouldn't it be better if we were a little more tender with each other? I'm not talking about having no boundaries or leaving yourself vulnerable to people who don't have the best intentions. But it would be better for the human race if we were more tender with each other, if we felt more comfortable being vulnerable with each other. And also, we want to be able to be guided by that wisdom along with our our reasoning. We're not giving up our intelligence or our reasoning function, but it's better if it's paired. Science on science alone without any empathy leads to, horrible things. We know that from World War II and what the Nazis did. So, and we know that, it's not just them. A lot of people have used science for not good things. So we need to develop a way to be in touch with our own, to be able to feel. It's not even get reacquainted. We need to actually feel our tender heart. So that's what responds to some things, along with our reason. And I can't remember where I read it, but a Supreme Court justice, a U.S. Supreme Court justice, said that 90%, at least 90, over 90% of the cases, Supreme Court cases, were actually determined based on emotional beliefs, not not reason. So what that means to me is we respond to things based on our belief system, and then we have our intellect come up with a reason why it's reasonable. So we're already unconsciously, reacting to things and deciding things based on some sort of belief that has an emotional kick. So if we're doing that anyway, perhaps it would be best to have our belief systems that have an emotional kick be based on empathy and tenderness rather than on defensiveness and anger and implicit bias and things like that. So we want to bring more conscious this ability to be touched, to be tender, along with our reason, so we can live a life that is sweeter and also benefits others and ourselves. So how do we do that? How do we um, get in touch with that sweetness that's there? Um, and how did we lose that ability? And one of the ways we did is because when we felt hurt or vulnerable, we built a protective wall around it. So we don't have to create a tender heart. We have to let go of the walls or become conscious of them, and then in the moment choose to be vulnerable, choose to allow our natural empathy for something or someone or a situation to be heard. So when I was on one of my journeys to Teotihuacan in Mexico, which has pyramids from the Toltecs that were built at least 1,000 years ago. We were there on it's not a pilgrimage, but it's just a way to be in an environment where you're outside of your own normal life. So you're not constantly bringing yourself back into some normal routine. Everything is different. And I had this epiphany that what what we're really looking for. Why would I fly all the way to Mexico and be with people I don't know and being out in like a kind of desert with pyramids and doing these things? Was I had noticed how cynical, let's just use the word cynical, I had become about just ordinary things in my life. Something was missing, but it wasn't missing. I was suffocated. I had suffocated my own natural sense of awe, of wonder, and connection. And so I was like, it's like I have this self-made sarcophagus around me to protect me so that, well, that I don't ever want that to happen again. Say somebody had done something that had hurt me. Well, I don't want to have that happen again, so I'm going to be careful. But yet, it cuts off what really brings joy. Um, what what really makes us alive, makes me alive, is when I don't have to stop the flow of loving something. And it reminded of me when I first had a child. For me, it was very easy to just, from the moment he came out, and I held him, it was just this outpouring of love. I didn't have to work at it. It just came flowing out, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it is. But I think we've all had experiences of that, whether we're parents or not. It could be for our parent, for a friend, for a lover, for a mate, where you don't have to You just allow it to flow out. And that's the tender heart. And that's the rose in the poem. How did it ever open its heart and give to the world all its beauty? And when I was with different groups on different retreats, we get into a state where we don't have to defend ourselves. It's a safe space. It's a space where we can explore that. And we all felt how natural and how fulfilling that was to allow that tenderness of our own heart um, to be expressed without without reservation. So one of the best ways to get in touch with our own tender heart is to allow yourself to be the object of your own tenderness. Because we tend to be the hardest on ourselves. And when we judge ourselves, and when we criticize ourselves, and we don't feel worthy, and we then pile on with more uh, unloving thoughts towards ourselves, that tender heart is crushed. So one of the ways we learn how to feel our own tender heart is we turn that love towards ourselves, and then we can practice being open with others, learning what it's like not to defend, not to protect ourselves at all costs. And it was, most of us have developed this out of a natural rough and tumble of being human and growing up in a human family. So there's nothing wrong with what we've created up to this point. But if we're yearning for something more tender, more loving, more nourishing, more alive, we need to be conscious of what we're doing, and we need to somehow include ourselves in that which we want to feel for others and to be in the world. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to read one more poem. It's from Samantha Reynolds, and I think she expresses what I'm trying to say really beautifully in her poem called Forgive. You imagine it will dismantle you to shed the rage, as though it is the supporting beam, the fuel, the thing that pushes back against the sorrow. But it is not an ally. It is a sack of rocks you wear as a coat, making you gray and small. You don't have to do it publicly at first. Test it on a tree. Write it down. Say it out loud, underwater. But don't let your hands drag the memories into another year like a corpse you won't bury. Unfurl those fingers. Forgive. You will see that the pain will not drown you. With your hands empty, finally, you will float. So I'm going to pause the recording for a moment. Second, two. Okay. I have another poem from Samantha Reynolds um, that I think, again, is really wonderful way to express what I'm trying to point to here. And it's called Love is Not Fragile. Who taught you to be sparing with your love, as though your heart was a bank, as though love could dry up? Nonsense. It is as if the ocean complained it was too wet. Love is not fragile. It is as common as breath. It is play money. It is a race to give more. Go first. Say it with impunity. You think you will ache with vulnerability, but the strangest thing will happen. You will nearly drown with peace. So again, allow yourself to feel and receive the support of the chair, couch. Allow the back to be supported, the neck to be comfortable but upright. Maybe move your shoulders a little bit. We've been sitting for a while, so just make sure you're comfortable. And take a deep, full, relaxed, no straining breath in, and a relaxed, conscious, slow exhale. Breathing in, and breathing out. Aware of breathing in, aware of breathing out. Noticing the breath, attending the breath with awareness, practicing now at this time, so that when we feel the need to become present, be grounded, to calm, become less reactive, to make space for a choice, we remember to put our attention on our breath, slow it down, feel the sensation, air entering and leaving the body. This small, conscious awareness, attention, presence is key to choosing our response to life, to choosing our response to each other, to choosing to be transformed into a fuller, more loving, present, compassionate life. Noticing the breath in the moment, mastering our attention, and intending to choose to respond, perhaps with a more tender heart. I'd like you to take a moment to think of a time where you were moved by someone, something. Could be a puppy, could be something in nature, could be a parent who loves you, a sister or a brother, a time when someone needed help or you needed help, and you allowed yourself to be moved. Could even be when something very sad was lost. Something, someone special or some situation had to change, whether you had no control. And there was sadness. That also touches the tender heart. Allow yourself to feel that. Feel it and not be overwhelmed. Because there's a part of you that can be tender and grieving and be with. Because you're larger, stronger, more beautiful than you are led to believe. Your heart has a capacity for love that is almost boundless. And when people feel it, you bless them. Your tender heart is a prayer for humanity. And we need prayers. We need prayers for ourselves, for each other. Allow yourself the gift of your own tender heart. You are worth it. You are worthy of tenderness. Be kind to others, but fall in love with yourself. Find your flaws endearing. Given your pick, make it your flesh you would choose to inhabit. Be kind to others, but fall in love with yourself. Find your flaws endearing. Given your pick, make it your flesh you would choose to inhabit. And taking your time to come back to this beautiful, warm July Sunday morning. I hope you have a wonderful day, a brilliant day. Be kind to yourself. Find a flower to smell or an ice cream to lick or something cool and refreshing. Namaste. Bye.